Did you have any other question?
Well, Dr. Fogelquist, is there any way that we can enforce our request to the United Nations?
Here's the way I see it. I think first of all, whatever the United Nations does is a reflection of the major powers on the Security Council, mainly the United States, France, Britain, Russia, and to some extent China. The Chinese and the Russians are foot draggers. The Chinese have exactly the same kind of regime that Serbia had when this conflict began, so they sympathize with the Serbian leadership. And one point that I wasn't able to make was that this whole war is basically caused by neo-Stalinist or communist, the communist ruling elite in Yugoslavia, which is primary Serbian, wanting to hold on to power. And the only way they could hold on to power at a time when communism was falling down all over the world and was being discredited ideologically was to come up with this Serbian nationalism. But getting back to the United Nations, all of the pressures that are being placed now that you can place on American foreign policy will eventually result in, if American foreign policy changes and America exercises leadership, then the whole position of the United Nations can change. So what you're doing here to influence American politicians is very important, and this program is important.
I'm going to ask my question in English if it's
Sure,
okay.
go.
Just want to first make a comment and then I'll have a question for Dr. Fogelquist. The gentleman behind me, our Bosnian friend, made a statement about conspiracy between certain groups or forces which has resulted in this tragedy in Bosnia. My comment is that's a pretty strong statement, especially if you want to be politically effective. Such statements are not going to get us anywhere in the United States. Instead of pitting one group or religion against another, Muslims, Jews, Christians, or others, what we have to do is we have to present this tragedy as just a human tragedy rather than one group against another. We ought to approach the Jews, the American Jewish Federation, World Jewish Congress, JDL, Jewish Defense League, other groups, minority groups such as NAACP, National Association of Colored Persons. You have to approach the ABA, American Bar Association, and present the information to them. In this century, especially in the 21st century that is coming to us in a few years, information is the most valuable commodity. One of the reasons that the people in this country have been apathetic toward the tragedy of Bosnian brothers is because they don't have the information. And as you just mentioned, the media has not been very receptive, partly because those who are concerned, those of us who are concerned, have not been effective in approaching them. You can be heard as loud as you unite. That's my motto. The reason that Holocaust stands in the minds of many, even after 50 years, is because those who were hurt by it, those who were injured by it, those who killed and suffered, they united. They talk about it. They talk to their political leaders. Unfortunately, I can tell you about this, our Persian brothers. That is not true about Persians. We don't unite, we don't talk together, we talk against each other. What we got to do, we got to unite, approach our political leaders and group mailings, such as we can have signature drives in shopping centers. Signature drives are one of the most effective way of being heard. Now, I'm going to end my comment because it's probably taking too much time, and I'm going to ask you a question about the historical perspective about the conflict in Bosnia. I read an interview by David Owen, who is one of the parties in the Vance-Owen plan, who said that there is a substantial minority of Serbs in Bosnia. And when in 1991, Bosnians declared independence in 92, there was an excuse for the Serbians outside to come to help. I think that might be a natural reaction. If you have, let's say, let's talk about Iranians. Let's say a part of southern Iran declares independence, and there's a minority of Iranians in there. Naturally, the Iranians elsewhere would react to it. To what extent is this the valid excuse? To what extent, the extent was there a danger to the Serbian minority in Bosnia because of their declared independence?
Thank you.
Do I need to speak into the microphone? Or?
You have your
No,
own
oh,
microphone
okay.
hooked.
I believe there was absolutely no danger at all in Bosnia in particular for the Serbian living in Bosnia, who made up about 31% of the population. Why do I say this? Because after the first multi-party elections in the recent history of the Republic of Bosnia, a three-party coalition came to power in which the Serbian party, led by Mr. Karadzic, who is now making war against his fellow Bosnians, plus President Izetbegovic, plus the main party of the Croatians, they were all represented in the government. And it was the goal of President Izetbegovic of Bosnia not to create an Islamic state, but a secular, democratic state in which all human rights of all peoples were respected. And Bosnia and Macedonia were the two republics in former Yugoslavia who the European community, who had their human rights record guaranteed by the international community. At the end of 1991, the republics of the former Yugoslavia were invited to apply to the international community for recognition as independent republics. And it was only after an orderly process of elections that Bosnia declared its independence. And at the same time, Radovan Karadzic was participating in the government with President Izetbegovic and the representatives of the Croatian people, or the Catholics of Bosnia. He was actually carrying out preparations with the Yugoslav army to make war on the rest of the people in Bosnia. Yugoslavia no longer existed because Milosevic and his government in Serbia had completely violated the constitution of the former Yugoslavia by abolishing the autonomy of Kosovo and Vojvodina. It was an illegal act. The constitutions of both of those republics were guaranteed by the federal constitution, and the result of Milosevic and the Serbian military's effort to establish a Serbian nationalist dictatorship, all of Yugoslavia, is what drove the other peoples towards independence.